Hello, and welcome back to the Trade Addicts Dynasty League Part 2, where we're going to be starting at number 6 and moving our way up to number 1, Chris. We left off our last show with a very, very strong team, a couple of strong teams, really. I'm excited to see what's better than what we just saw, because I really do think the upside of those last couple teams is really, really in good shape. So let's start with our number 6 team, Chris. We've got Big Rick 1960 here. Big Rick 1960 at our number 6 slot. We've got Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Tyler Higbee, Terry McLaurin, Leonard Fournette, and Mac Jones currently at the super flex spot. We've got Jimmy G on the bench. We've got Jamal Williams. Interesting spot out there in New Orleans. I actually like that landing spot for him a whole lot. Donovan Peoples-Jones. We have a whole bunch of aging guys down here on the bottom with Cobb, Julio Jones, and Hunter Henry. We do have George Kittle, who we're going to slot right into that lineup with the 2 PPR for tight ends. Taxi squad's got really John Mechie. Really looking forward to his return. No picks to speak of here, Chris, in this year, next year, or 2025. My goodness, we are stuck with this team for better or worse. Oh boy, Jimmy G and Mac Jones, you are in the game, son.
Yeah, this team is probably going to be my most polarizing pick. I think I've got him in the playoffs right now at number 6. I just see a lot of points being scored on this team. It's an aging team, but up and down the lineup, I think he's going to score a ton of points. I mean, we've got George Kittle here in reserve. Hunter Henry has some depth. I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jamal Williams. I think we've got enough depth here to supplement the stars that we have and Aaron Jones, Kamara, Devontae Adams, Evans, McLaurin. I think there's enough here to kind of get this team again right in the fringe of the playoffs. I think this team's going to score a ton of points, Matt. That said, if you want to tell me let's go ahead and rebuild this thing from the ground up, I'm not going to argue with you because you said it. This team is aging. It's a lot of veterans. The quarterback position is not elite. We don't have any picks, right? I think this team is a playoff team. I do, as constructed, but it's a fringe playoff team and a team that very well could benefit from a complete rebuild. And I think if I know that look, I think that's the direction you want to
I mean, didn't that ship sail whenever he traded his 24 and 25 first away?
That's the other problem, right? Is you've got these older guys that their trade value is kind of low. I mean, what are you going to get for Kamara at this point? What are you getting for Adams and Evans at this point? Not a ton. I think you got to ride it out with this team and hope you get hot in the playoffs and make some noise.
I mean, this team, Chris, I mean, it is what it is. And I think it's fine. I think the floor for this team is dead last.
Oh, no way. This team cannot finish last compared to some of the other teams you've seen. Stop it.
I could see it. I mean, geez, God, what if Kamara doesn't play a single down this year? I mean, it's unlikely to happen. Leonard Fournette doesn't really catch on. I mean, it just lacks a little bit of depth. I mean, let me finish here. The upside here is a playoff team. I don't know if he has the upside, the 2 teams that we just saw, and he's got a more dangerous floor, I think. But I think, again, like you said, these teams are all kind of in the same tier. So dead smack in the middle is fine. I think when you saw the name Mike Evans, you lit up like a pinball machine, as you always do.
It's a soft spot for sure. I mean, listen, I think I see a pretty high floor for this team, honestly. So I disagree with you that his floor is low. I just think I think we have guys here that are going to consistently score a fair bit of points. I mean, they're aging veterans. I not fully acknowledge that. I just think these guys are going to score points. They're consistent point scorers. They haven't fallen off yet. This may be the last chance for a lot of them, but I just think we have a lot of points that are going to be scored here. That's going to kind of keep him. I think the floor for this team is somewhere around rank 8, and I think the ceiling is probably somewhere around rank 4. So I kind of just split the middle here and put him at 6. That's kind of the justification for my ranking here. And I
Chris,
get it. It's not an attractive team for sure.
Chris, what is going on at your house right now? Is there a high speed Jeez, Chase, are you in the middle of the Los Angeles Strip or something?
I mean, it wouldn't be the first high speed chase going around Palm Coast, Florida. There was this is live, folks. This is live podcasting. Nothing beats it. Straight down the street across. Unbelievable.
Oh man. All right, let's get to our number 5 team here, Chris. Let's hope they catch the bad guys for the end of the show for the feel good story here. Our number 5 team here, Chris, is Steve P. And we've got Joe Burrow, we've got Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, Devontae Smith, TJ Hawkinson, Kyler Murray at Superflex. Guys on the bench, we've got Jordan Love, who's now worth a mention. Valdez Scantling, maybe worth a mention as well. Tanya now in Chicago. Picks, he's got 109 and 111 in a few seconds. He's got a whole bunch of firsts in 2024. All right, Chris, talk to me here. I might be taking issue here with this team. I think your love of DeAndre Swift has bothered your vision. Sell me on this team here, Chris, because I'd love to drop him down a few pegs if I could.
Yeah, man. Listen. Again, let me just justify this by saying that I think this middle tier of teams is extremely close. So if you want to move him down in this middle tier, I'm fine with it. I look at Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray as sort of the best QB bunch, the best QB duo that we've seen of the teams, that are below him. I think that's a tremendous QB duo that I think carries him above the teams that he's ranked above. And then you've got, I think, Josh Jacobs and DeAndre Swift. I think it's a very, very quality running back duo. I think TJ Hawkinson proved to be really a quality option at tight end in Minnesota when he got traded there. You've got Jordan Love as your QB3. I think this team lacks depth. I would not argue that. We've got Tanyan. We've got Hooper in Vegas, I think is a nice start here. You can plug those guys in for Allen Robinson or, and plug Lazard in that wide receiver spot and put, the tight end in that other flex spot. So it lacks depth, but we've got 109, 111. We've got 3 seconds. I think we can find some production there. And it's really just the QBs, Matt. I mean, the QBs were sort of the differentiating factor here because I think the rest of the lineup is good enough where the QB sort of put him a tiny notch above the teams below him. But again, I think within this tier here, again, I said at the start, we've got 3 teams at the bottom, 3 teams at the top for me, and then this middle tier of 6. And that middle tier of 6, I think, is very, very difficult to rank, and it's splitting hairs. If you want to put him below, I'm fine with it. But, for me, it's the quarterbacks that put him just a slight notch above the teams below.
Yeah, I think he may end up being sneaky good, Chris. It doesn't look like a whole lot on paper, but I think he could end up being okay. Chris, this may be a hot take. It may be a freezing cold take, but I've got TJ Hawkinson as our tight end 2 in 2023. Is that hot or just a lukewarm, solid pick?
Nah, I love it, man. I like it a lot. I've always been a Hawk fan. I mean, he got a ton of targets in Minnesota. I think it's good. Kittle, who the heck knows? Mark Andrews has been kind of a dud, last year, and who knows where Lamar Jackson goes. So you've got Kelsey 1, Hawkinson 2. I'm good with it. I think that's fine. I don't know how the fantasy community feels about that, but I'm good with that. I'm on board.
Yeah, I just did a draft yesterday, Chris, that was 2 points for tight end premium. And Hawkinson went after Pitts, because obviously Pitts is the more attractive guy from a dynasty perspective. But listen, I like TJ Hawkinson much better. And with Thielen out of there, I think all those targets go to Hawkinson. If any team puts less than 3 or 4 guys on Justin Jefferson, they clearly missed the scouting report on what he's capable of doing. I think plenty of middle of the field options are going to be there for TJ Hawkinson. But back to this team here, Chris, it's going to come down to DeAndre Swift for me and what he can do. And really, can Josh Jacobs duplicate what he did last year? That being said, I'm tearing this down, Chris. I'm absolutely doing that. Jacobs is gone. Swift is gone. TJ Hawkinson is gone. I'm really just going forward with Burrow, Murray, and Devontae Smith and trying to build on what I'm building on for 2024. Can I add 2 or 3 more picks from the 2024 draft class? Really just cut this thing down and start over. I think that's probably the best course of action. As built, I don't see him winning a title here. I just don't see him with that type of upside. Yeah, I think you're right. These quarterbacks keep him in every single week and probably give him a favorable outcome more often than not. But is he a title team? No, I don't think so. So for me, it's got to be a rebuild, and it starts with those guys.
Yeah, I think that's the tough part, right, Matt? Because you've got these two elite quarterbacks who are going to keep you in every single week. So if you tear it down, you're not going to trade away the quarterbacks. You're always going to be semi-competitive. It's kind of tough. I kind of lean the other way. Honestly, I would trade away Jordan Love if I can get something for him and get some position player help and use that along with my 2 picks here. I've got 5 picks in the first 2 rounds, and I've also got 301, right? So that's 6 top 25 picks. I'd use those picks if I could to get help and go the other way. So you got 2 differentiating opinions here, Steve. I think you just got to pick one and go with
And if we know Steve the way we think we know Steve, he's going to continue to go for the title
it.
and build that type of way. But Chris, our number 4 team here is the Greenwood Invincibles. Greenwood Invincibles at number 4. We've got Russ Wilson, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin, Keenan Allen, Evan Ingram, DeAndre Hopkins, Dalvin Cook, and Geno Smith. On the bench, we've got Tannehill. We've got Latavius Murray, I think is going to be an interesting play this year. Is he still with Denver, Chris, or did he get moved out of there? I thought he was staying with Denver.
He got released, so he is currently a free agent.
All right, maybe I saw that they were really considering bringing him back. I wonder if that is like, although P. Ryan is there. So, maybe a little bit dicey. We'll see what happens there. There's P. Ryan. Alexander Madison, I think, is an interesting play. Jarvis Landry, Brandon Cooks, Hunter Renfro, Darren Waller, Jonnu Smith on the Falcons there. Taxi Squad's got nothing at all. No picks in the first round, 211 worth mentioning. No first next year. Extra third to speak of in 2024. Love this team here, Chris. I think this team is championship ready right now. I think the gap between him and Steve's team is gigantic. This is a very, very good team. He won it last year. I can see why. If we can get a little bit better from Russ and not much worse from Geno, I don't see him duplicating what he did last year at his peak. I think this team is ready for a repeat run.
It's a very good team, Matt. No doubt about it. I've got him at the top of our middle tier, just outside our top tier. But I agree with you. I think he's closer to the top tier than the teams in that middle tier are to him, if that makes sense. He could almost be in a tier of his own. This looks like a team, honestly, that we would build just quality, productive players that are, that give you a good quality 2 to 3 year window. Eckler, Barkley, Godwin, Allen, Ingram, Hopkins, Cook. I mean, these guys are all that. I do worry about these quarterbacks, right? Russell Wilson, I think, is probably going to be a tick better. Geno Smith, though, I think is probably going to be a tick worse, right? If we're being honest with ourselves here. So I don't know if that balances out and is good enough for this team. But I do think his position players are extremely quality. I think his quarterbacks will probably be good enough for him. Can he get something out of his bench players? Samaje Perine, Alexander Madison, Brandon Cooks, Hunter Renfro. If he gets the production out of his bench, I think this team, I'm with you, can be a title contender. And I've got him again just outside that top 3. But I think this team is closer to the top tier than the rest of the league is to him.
Yeah, I actually do like his depth here, Chris. I think Brandon Cooks and Hunter Renfro were guys that can really be, pretty good on this team. I really like those guys. P. Ryan is a guy that I like as well. So I think it's a really good build. I think we've got 2 more years this year and next of really getting after it, or it's got to be 1 year and then ditch these guys before they get too old. Hopefully the injury bug doesn't catch up to this team. I could see that being an issue, but yeah, this does look like a team that we build, which is why we obviously like it quite a bit. We need Dalvin Cook to stay in place. We need DeAndre Hopkins to head to a favorable spot. We need Godwin to not take too big of a step down with Brady gone. We need Eckler to stay in LA in the worst way. And like I said, we need Russ Wilson to take that little step forward. But Chris, I love this team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a notch below just because of all those question marks you just mentioned, right? Every single guy on this roster kind of has a sort of hey, this could happen and things could be bad for him. But again, we're looking at just quality players through and through who are consistent producers. So I'm not too worried about this team. I think this team is a clear playoff team and probably a clear semifinals team.
All right, Chris, top three. Let's see what it looks like. We've seen some quality already. Let's see how much more quality this top three is. Number three, we've got KDP or K Peterson waddling around. We've got Mahomes, Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Waddle, Diggs, Goddard, and Joku, Damian Pierce, and Deshaun Watson. We've got Kirk Cousins on the bench, Jared Goff as well, Cordero Patterson, Deontay Foreman as well, Robert Woods out there in Houston. Now we'll see what happens with him. Isaiah Likely may be worth a mention as well. Dulcich sitting here on taxi squad. No picks to speak of this year or next year. I like this team here, Chris. I think he definitely belongs in this top tier. This may be your number one quarterback duo with Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff also sitting on the bench. I like this team here, Chris. I love Miles Sanders in Carolina. Love, love, love.
Yeah, it's a really quality team. A lot of high value players here in Mahomes, Derrick Henry, Watson. I think with this team, for me, it's obvious, right? I have to trade one of these quarterbacks. I've got to get rid of Cousins or Goff or even Watson on this team. I would not be afraid to trade Deshaun Watson on this team. He's been going as a high round two startup pick, sometimes sneaking it around one even in Superflex. If I could get a quality haul for Watson, Cousins, or Goff with position player help, either an upgrade over a guy like Njoku or Damian Pierce or whoever the heck I'm going to put in there, I've got to do it. And that's my number one priority this entire offseason because I think that's the hole on this team. You've got the top end talent in Mahomes, Henry, Sanders, and Diggs and Waddle, right? So we're really, really strong across the top, but we've got to make our last two flex spots better. And the way to do that is through quarterback. It's just glaringly obvious here with this team carrying four quarterbacks. We've got to get rid of one of them.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it. And it's got to be priority number one. I think it's Watson. I'm really happy that you said him and not settling for Cousins or Goff because those guys are both slipping a little bit in drafts. As I've seen more teams have been, or owners have been a little bit more confident in what they've got, and they're letting Cousins and Goff start to slip a little more than we saw earlier in this offseason. So their value is slipping a little bit. Love their roster value. Trust me, we've got more Cousins and Goff than we know what to do with. So Deshaun Watson for me is the easy play here to get rid of him. I'd go for two like a fourth and a fifth round type startup guys. To add in here for Watson. Suddenly we put him in for Njoku and Pierce, and it's a much more formidable starting lineup, gives us a little bit of depth. I think that is a number one, have to do it. When you look at his picks, he doesn't really have a whole lot here to deal with. Maybe the 2024 second is his best asset. I consider that as well. Moving on, but it's got to be all in, I think, for this year, for this team. And he's got the pieces to make it happen.
Yeah, he certainly does, Matt. I think the big question here is, you've got all these quarterbacks. If the only thing you can get is a haul for Mahomes, do you take it? Or is it simply a point where you can't move Mahomes because he just provides the whole shebang? I mean, he just carries your team. You know, I'm talking about like if you can get like God, I don't even know what the price on Mahomes is, but if you can get sticker value for him, do you trade him and roll with Watson and Cousins and Goff as your QB3? Or do you say, you know what, I've got to move Watson, even if I have to take a slight value dip just because the market isn't bearing it out? What's your play there?
That's a really tough question. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to come down to that exact decision. Although I don't think anyone that we've seen so far has the horses to go and get a Patrick Mahomes.
I agree.
So I just don't see that happening. So you may end up settling for a dip on both of those guys. So for that reason, I'm going with Watson. Because if I get rid of Mahomes as well, Chris, forget about what you're getting in return. I mean, Watson, Cousins, and Goff are not bulletproof here
Yeah.
in terms of what we're going to be getting this year. Like I said, we've got Cousins everywhere, and we've got Goff in an increasing number of spots as we've done more drafts this offseason. We've got no Deshaun Watson exposure, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And we won't have any with the way he's going in these drafts. So I don't think any of those guys are bulletproof. So for that reason, I've got to make sure I do have Mahomes the horse. But if somebody comes at me with that offer, I'm giving up. I would give up Mahomes if I had to.
Yeah, you'd absolutely have to think about it for sure. But yeah, I think priority would be to move Watson at sticker value if you can get
All right, Chris, only two teams left here.
it.
Jazz and TOB, TOB and Jazz, guys that are constantly going at it in a league that we have both of them in. Our number two team is TOB at number two, which gives Jazz the number one ranking. Boy, Jazz gonna have a big year this year in his fantasy leagues. More on that in a little bit. Let's focus on TOB. We got Lamar Jackson, CMC. We got Nick Chubb, Ty Hill, Deontay Johnson, Travis Kelsey. Boy, he's going to score 1,000,000 points in this format. Zeke Elliott, Joe Mixon, and Aaron Rodgers. Guys on the bench worth a mention. We got Brock Purdy, Jameis Winston. I'm not giving up on him just yet. Kareem Hunt, we'll see what happens there. Odell Beckham, certainly worth a mention. Michael Thomas. That's about it for picks down here. We've got nothing until 2025. So obviously in TOB fashion, sparing no expense to win a title. I like this team here, Chris. It is very, very good. I'm interested to see what it looks like compared to what Jazz has. But listen, anytime you've got a Travis Kelsey led team, Christian McCaffrey, you are going to be in very, very good shape. I don't love the depth here, Chris. I would say that's probably his biggest downfall. It could be okay, though, Chris, with Mike Thomas and Odell Beckham. It could be very good.
Yeah, I mean, major question marks in the depth spot here, and even in the starting lineup here. I mean, you've got Zeke Elliott and Deontay Johnson both in the starting lineup, and I don't think those guys are sure things either. Plus, you've got Aaron Rodgers likely changing spots, going to New York eventually, whenever the heck that happens. So I just think there's enough question marks here to put him at two. And again, we're kind of nitpicking a little bit, but between those question marks, I think it's enough to put him at two. And I think the lack of depth is really where it hurt me, a little bit. Because I mean, we've got Brock Purdy, who maybe is a starter in San Francisco. We don't know. Um, you know, Kareem Hunt, who knows where he lands. Odell Beckham, who knows if he's available to play. Michael Thomas, I mean, we're going on season 3 now of him, wanting to kill people on the same staff, and who knows with him. It's a mess. So I don't see any bankable production here on his bench, and with a couple holes in his lineup, or half holes as you want to call it. But so that was enough for me to put him two. But I mean, it's the upside. I mean, the top end talent is absolutely undeniable. And Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, Ty Hill, Travis Kelsey, again, he's going to score 1,000,000 points in this league. He's going to be right there competing for a title. I think he's going to figure out a way to make those last couple flex spots and his bench work. He always seems to do that. But again, those minor holes, I think, were enough to put him at two for me.
Yeah, if this was my only team, my only fantasy team that I owned, I mean, I'd be pulling my hair out with the negative publicity that like 3/4 of the starting lineup has received this offseason, right, Chris, with Lamar Jackson and his situation. Nick Chubb, there was a lot of trade rumors for a while. I think he's in a good spot in Cleveland, and ultimately with Kareem Hunt getting out of there, you got to like Nick Chubb's usage this year. Deontay Johnson, I mean, everyone's calling for him to just like fall off the earth. Going to be George Pickens' wide receiver crew. Kenny Pickett may stink. Zeke Elliott currently does not have a team. Joe Mixon's been in and out of prison, it feels like, with all the negative pub he's gotten. and then Aaron Rodgers. Enough said. We don't need to say anything else. So, I think I just mentioned 6 out of the 9 guys in his starting lineup in which there's negative publicity. So, it wasn't an overall great offseason for this team, but I think it's going to land on his feet. And I do see him as a clear playoff team, clear contender.
Yeah, I mean, all the negative publicity, and at the end of the day, he's still going to score 1,000,000 points, right? I mean, Lamar Jackson's going to land somewhere and be the guy. Christian McCaffrey's going to score 1,000,000 points. Travis Kelsey's going to score 1,000,000 points. Ty Hill's going to score 1,000,000 points, right? And the rest almost doesn't matter because those guys are so dang good.
All right, Chris, that gets us to our number 1 team, Jazz Diaz. We did a league with the league that we're in with Jazz. We just did a show about a week ago and crowned him the champion for the next 3 years, I think.
At least.
So it's going to be a profitable next couple of years here for Jazz Diaz. Let's see if this team has the juice to run out a nice little dynastical run. We've got Justin Herbert, J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Michael Pittman, CeeDee Lamb, Mark Andrews, Jerry Jeudy, and Trevor Lawrence. We've got Carr on the bench. We've got Jacoby Brissett as well. The corpse of Melvin Gordon. I think this is finally the year, Chris, where we stop drafting him. No, that's a lie. We're going to
No.
continue to draft him. We got Khalil Herbert out there in Chi-Town. We'll see what happens there. Darius Slayton, Elijah Moore. That's about it. Guys on taxi squad. Nothing really worth mentioning. He had pick 6 and pick 10 to an already go roster. I like this team here, Chris. I think you did well here. I do think this is the number 1 team. Well done.
Yeah, I don't think he's the runaway one. If you want to put Tom ahead of him, I think that's fine. But I think Tom had too many question marks for me. But I look at this team and I just see a really complete team. I really do. He's got an elite tight end in Mark Andrews. He's got very quality wide receivers in Lamb, Judy, Williams, and Pittman. 2 quality running backs in Dobbins and Etienne. It's a super young team. We've got Herbert, who's already elite, Trevor Lawrence, who took that step last year. And then we've got 2 picks to add on as well. I don't know if this team's going to realize his championship potential this season, Matt. It may be a year away from that, but man, I can't find a better constructed team for both this year and the next 3 years than this one. And that's why I've got him number 1. I mean, it's just well done here by Jazz. Just really solid across the board. I don't really see a ton of question marks, the way I see in other teams. It's just really, really solid throughout. I just love what he's got going on here. Do I wish he had a little more depth? Yeah, I could say that about a lot of teams, though. So I've got him number 1. I think he's just got quality talent at every position. And he's got the picks here to add some depth. So I love what he's doing. Nice job, Jazz.
Yeah, I think the running back position, Chris, is where things are going to be maybe a little bit dicey as the offseason progresses. I think you're holding your breath as a J.K. Dobbins and Travis Etienne owner to make sure. I mean, I think it's probably a foregone conclusion that they both add some sort of depth to both of those. You just wonder how threatening it is to both of their jobs. But like I said, I like both of them. I think Pittman just needs himself a freaking quarterback so he could just break out already and be right there. Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy, I like both of those guys to kind of build off of what they did last year. But listen, Trevor Lawrence is the story on this team. The way his stock has risen over the past year has really been a nice sight to see. To think of where he was like in 2018 or 19 as a Devy guy, how highly touted he was, and then the Urban Meyer blow up. It was really nice to see him bounce back this year, and now to be pretty much a consensus top 8 pick in every single startup. Really a solid situation for him, which is really the big boost that this team needed heading into this year. I like it, Chris. Well done.
Matt, does 110 get you Josh Jacobs?
No, no, no. Jacobs is starting to be on the rise, Chris.
Is he?
Yeah,
Or is that just for you?
no, he really is, Chris. I mean, in the draft that I just did yesterday, I couldn't get my hands on him because he ended up going, I think, in the early 3rd round, something like that. And
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
I know that you and I have gotten him in like the mid 4th or so.
even
if I
later, I
remember
think.
correctly, in the drafts that we've done so far, this year. So yeah, I don't think that it is Chris, at all. I think those are interesting pieces to maybe move to add more depth to help him this year. But this team's actually pretty young too. I just might stick and pick, know that I've got a solid team now, and continue to build off it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'd keep the six regardless, but I think 10 looks like a nice piece to kind of move off of and maybe get a solid running back if I could. If that doesn't develop, I'm fine making that pick too. So I think he's in a great spot.
All right, Chris, let's give us your 12 through 1 one last time. Number 12 is No Diggs. 11 is Get Some. 10 is Bob McBobertson. 9 is Cowboys for It All. 8, Low Expectations. 7, no Din Rogers. 6 is Big Rick. 5, Steve P. 4, Greenwood Invincibles. 3, K. Peterson. 2, T.O.B. And 1 is Jazz Diaz. So that's going to do it for us tonight, Chris, with the Trade Addicts League. There's a ton of quality. I think this thing is going to go similarly to the way that you put it. But listen, we've got some dark horses in that second tier that you had mentioned. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing plays out. It should be a really good league this year again. So we appreciate you guys checking in and listening. Remember to like and subscribe, please. That helps us out tremendously. Mention us to your other leagues. See if anyone's interested in getting a personalized podcast for any other leagues. Good luck this season and have a great night.